The Visions 2 editor, the engine behind FAMCare, helps to set up all templates as well as gives you the power to modify any form in the system as well as create new forms. In our system right now, FAMCare has well over 86 forms that do different things. And some of those forms are built as templates, some of them are tools, some of them are functions. At the end of the day, you'll have the ability to search for a form, pull it up, and edit it. As an example, if I wanted to pull up right now the referral form and make changes to it, we have several different types. I'd open up the referral form. Once I'm on the referral form, there are different configurations as to where to put the form, the security around the form, where it's available, where it's in the menu, things like that. But if I wanted to edit this form right now, I'd go over to the form designer, pull the form up, and make changes. We're going to show you how to do that. Essentially, all the forms are in FAMCare. And you can go through and see all the different forms. I think the first thing I want to do is show you how to build a new form. So I think one of the things we'll do to start is to create a test form so you can see how the editor works and the different components within each. Just copying some notes. We do have the ability to track notes here. I'm just going to bypass some of this so we can go right into the designer and you can see how this looks. Now what's happening is the editor is being rendered. There are two different things. You need to imagine this as a palette and a canvas. On the left side is a palette. It's a blank palette ready for your form. On the right side are all the different tools. Now this is a full list of tools. Of course, we can go into different controls for layout, for the different field types. And I'd like to spend a little time here for a second. What are the different field types? If we were dropping in a multiple choice question, we'd want to use this field type. If we were dropping in a fill in the blank question, we would bring in the small data field. If we wanted to do a large comment box, we would do a large data field. If we wanted to do a date field, well, every form needs to have a date field on it. So we would drag over the pathway date field as the original and most significant date. But if we had other dates to record, we can make the small data field on a setting a date field. And I can show you how to do that. So there are different things that you can do with fields. We also have lookup tables. You can pull in users. You can pull in external resources. You can pull in all of your programs. And you can pull in master tables into the form. It's very powerful. You could also have includes. You can include entire sections like employment history or other sections from the system. You can include an approval workflow. When this form is saved, it needs to go through a process of 3 sign-offs. Things like that could be added. You can do an email notification section, which means when this form is saved, I'd like the ability to email it to somebody. That's what this would be for. You can allow for image uploads. I want an image on the form. You can upload an image there. Different things like that give you a lot of power. If you need signature pads or boxes where people can sign their name with a stylus or their finger on their mobile phone, you can drag in a signature pad. As well as any other table in the system that you're collecting data on, you can drag in here to view on this form. For example, if you wanted to drag in goals into the treatment plan, you can do that. Things like that are all possible in the system, and that's the power of the cross-sectional database, relational database, that you can basically bring data across to different sections. That's the power of FAMCare. So with all that in mind, let's start building a simple form real quick. First thing we do always is drag in a heading section. It's the most important thing. Headers can be dividers on a page and also section dividers. So it's very important. What I'll do first is I'll just call this first header general information. I'll show you why in a second. But within this header, I want to show you can make it 3 columns, which means anything under this header could be 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns. You can decide how many columns you want on this section on the form. This is great for building questions across the page versus down. Okay? You can also play with the font. You can center it. You can set the width as large. You can do different things. You could also hide this section depending on how certain other questions are answered. And this is applicable later when I show you how to add certain sections and then hide them based on a trigger. So if this section needed to be hidden to only people that were directors, this is where I explained this in the security video. This is where you could set security on a question or field level. So we'd want to set the first thing as a header, and then the next thing I'd want to do is drag in a date. And we're going to call this date of review. Of course, that's a date field. It's going to be a date field, and we've got it set. Now I may want to bring in a question. So we're going to bring over a multiple choice question. And I'm going to basically say, what color is the sky? This is a multiple choice question. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'd like it to be a drop down. I don't want multiple select. This is a single choice only. It's either going to be one or the other. It's only going to be red, white, or blue. That's it. That's your flag. That's the color. Now, if this was a question where you could select all that apply, then I would change this pretty much to a checkbox and say yes. And that would now allow me to change to add all of them. But we're going to leave it as a drop down for now. We're going to say no. There are other fields on here, and in the training video, we teach you how to do all of these different pieces. But for now, I'm just going to walk through some basic things. Every field can be made required. So if you wanted this to be a forced field before you save, you could set it to required. You can have the answers vertically or horizontally across the page. That's especially important when you do radio buttons. Do you want them underneath each other or to the right of each other? You can do help text. Basically, when someone mouses over the question, they'll see something, a clue about what is needed in that field. There are other things that could be done. There's things that we can program into this form ourselves to help you from a high level. And of course, we could always skip this question or hide it based on logic that we program. But for now, I'm going to leave that in there as that. I'm also going to drag in a small data field that says, what is your sister's name? Just as a fill-in. And we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to bring in another section header. And I'm going to say, tell us how you feel. Or how about emotional state? Okay. And then we're going to bring in another question that says, tell us how you feel. Tell us how you feel. That's your question. And the answer to this is now good, average, terrible. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to make terrible a safety alert. So down here, I'm going to say, if they say terrible, I want to notify people about this, right? So let's say that terrible is a safety alert. What is your safety alert value? I'm going to say it's terrible. So I'm going to write here, terrible. Now, what do I want to have happen? Well, I want to make that a moderate or severe safety alert, and I will say, person is uneasy. Pay attention to them. Whatever. That's the message that's going to show up. That's basically going to be the safety alert message when someone answers this question as terrible. You're going to be notified on the dashboard as well as the demographic record as to what's really going on with this individual. So that's how I would set that in there. Then I'm finished, but we're going to want this form signed at the end. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag over a signature pad. I'm going to drag over a small data field, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say signature here, signature. And then I'm going to say to this one here, I'm going to say date signed. And we're going to make that small data field a date by doing this. Here are all the different choices you can make this small data field. You can make it a date, a time, a phone number. You can make it currency, things like that. In this case, I'm going to make it a date. I'm going to close it. And then beyond that, I'm going to say I also want the ability to email this when I'm done. So now I've got the form built. That's it. If I want to see a full preview of that form, and I built my form with two sections. General information, emotional state. I have the ability to sign. I've got my pictures, my pics on my choice. Terrible would signify a safety alert. What color is the sky? White. My sister's name is Lucy Brown. And today's date, the 12th. And now I can say also email the supervisor or email someone else about this form. And that's as simple as it gets with form development. Now, if I go back and look at this, this is the way this looks, okay? I can go back to the form builder and save this now. I can go ahead and say, put it in my menu, put it in my reporting group, and that's it. I can do other configurations on it, and I go through the wizard and publish this form. Now that's that form in its current state. What I would want to show you next are all the forms. So if you look at all of these forms, they're all set up in different ways. This job search activity sheet, let me show you what that looks like really quick. Because as you look at these forms, it's important to see what they look like. I want you to be able to see the setup and identify what we've done here. Again, this is a job activity form. There's not a lot of fields on here. Let's look at a live preview of this form. Okay, this is the form in its current state. So we got name of company, date applied, position applied for, was an online application. We've got these general uploads here. What this is indicating to me is that I can bring in files here and upload them. I also have information at the bottom. If I wanted to add a question to this form, it wouldn't be hard to do. What I can do is I can move this over here, and I just want to show you how this works. So if up here I wanted to add another, a large data question up here, I can pop it right under this question here, okay? I can change the name to tell me how you feel in length. Okay, that's set. And of course, there's your field. And this is how forms would be edited on the fly. If you needed to update a question, you can come in here and add a question at any time. Then you can go save it and republish it, and it's ready to go. This is preview live preview mode. If I was to look at full mode right now, full preview, it's not live. You'd get the code that you see there, and it would be replaced by the functions like drag and drop file uploads, things like that, okay? So while you saw some code before for the date and here, now we've got it all pulling through. And tell me how you feel in length is already pulled through as well. So what I'll do now is I'll go back to that form and I'll go ahead and remove that field so I don't have that on my form to save it. And that would be how you update and create new forms in FAMCare.